In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer and Sanctifier. Amen. From Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. One day tells it to another, and night to night communicates knowledge. There is no speech or language, nor are their voices heard. Yet their sound has gone out through all the world, and their words to the ends of the earth. I have shared with you before that when I was a child, I wanted to be an astronomer. I loved looking at the night sky, the stars and the moon, and soon became fascinated with all things about space. It probably explains a lot about my Doctor Who fandom. The late 1960s, and then the 70s and the early 1980s, was an exciting time for would-be astronomers and space nerds. The moon landings and Mars missions and Voyager discoveries all led to a huge amount of celestial information. Every new discovery, every new image was breathtaking. I can remember my parents taking me to see a small sample of moon rock encased in perspex and security at Newcastle University. I can remember standing there and thinking that this rock in front of me had been up there and was now down here. My mind couldn't take it in, a piece of the heavens on earth. The Ladybird books of the night sky and the stars and their legends became much loved companions as I stood, torch in hand, in the backyard and turned these Northern Hemisphere tomes upside down so that the images would match the sky above me. As I pored over these books, I wondered at the constellations I would never see in these southern skies, and became excited when I late found books which showed the sky above me the right way up. You know, our way. Painstakingly, I learnt the shape of the constellations, delighted when I could add a new one to my collection of identified ones. Now, it's all terribly modern. I've got an app on my phone. Of course I do. There's an app for everything, which no matter what the time or place, superimposes the stellar images over the stars and the constellations. It even shows me what's below the horizon, sort of like the ultimate stellar spoiler. Wait, you'll never believe what's coming next. Using these modern technologies, no dropped torch or books are required. My knowledge has grown, not only of the constellations of my childhood books, but also my knowledge of the southern sky. And also, I now know that the shapes I painstakingly traced in the night sky only told me part of the story to be found there. For tens of thousands of years before colonisers came to these shores, the Indigenous people looked at the sky and found their stories in it too. You may have heard of the dark emu, a shape within what is known as the Milky Way. The movement of this emu across the night sky links with the understanding of different seasons. And just as the names that we have learnt for the constellations tell a story across the night sky, so too the stories of the First Nations peoples are to be found in the heavens. For the Yuin people of Victoria, the constellation we know as the Southern Cross is Bunya, the possum. For some of the Noongar people of Western Australia, it is 5 naughty boys who scatter when a spear, what we understand as the pointers, is thrown at them. The pointers are a spear too for some First Nations peoples of the North Coast, this time directed at a black swan, the length of the cross its head and tail, and the span its wings. For some Central Australian peoples, the stars of the cross are an eagle footprint, like the eagles of that area. There is a Warramai story of Gulumbara, a spiritual person who got in a fight with a bad, clever man and died. Gulumbara was taken by his 2 wives to an island off Seal Rocks, where they all went up into the sky, Gulumbara as the Southern Cross, and his wives as the pointers. And for the Darkanyung people, it is a tree which the spirits of the dead use to climb to heaven. Indigenous astronomy has a phrase, "What's up there is down here." We see what we know in the sky. It's not surprising then that colonisers saw a cross in the sky. White settlers far from home in a landscape and climate and sky that was alien sought comfort in the familiar. In the northern sky, the cross is a large shape or asterism within the constellation Cygnus the Swan. It makes sense that those looking for a guiding star in a new land would see a cross in the southern sky too. For Australians, the Southern Cross is a complex image, brought into sharp relief as we approach the 26th of January. It's a source of great shame to me that it took me far too long into my adult years to realise that the second verse of our national anthem begins, "Beneath our radiant Southern Cross." On the flag from Federation, most vividly depicted for us in this place in the hand-stitched stars on the Birdwood flag, it has become a symbol of Antipodean pride, but also at times of ugly racism and an ugliness and a bigotry which has no place being associated with the symbol of the cross on which the King of Love died. The Southern Cross was a symbol of rebellion at Eureka, but is also found on flags which proclaim a shared Southern experience, the flags of Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Tuvalu, and Brazil. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. My tantalisingly small learning of Indigenous astronomy has made me shockingly aware of the paucity of my so-called knowledge. And there's a certain selfish self-centeredness which says there is only one correct way to understand something as infinite and complex as the heavens, which the psalmist reminds us declares the glory of God, which we know is beyond our imagining. The stories of the First Nations people show us that we can encounter the glory and the wonder of God and understand these stories in many ways. And it is vital that we do not minimise the stories of the First Nations people, for there is found great wisdom and insight. It is vital that we do not claim the Southern Cross as our own, a symbol for one particular group or another. It is vital that we understand that it bears many meanings, many stories, and means much for many people. It is vital that we do not claim that there's only one way of understanding God too, for to do that denies the lived experience of others. And above all, it's vital that we do not place ourselves in the centre of the universe and believe that the glory is ours, for to do so is to deny that the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory. The heavens declare the glory of God. May we, in our diversity, declare it too. Amen.